Love you. What are you doing? So Josh showed up, just being vulnerable and wanted to get feedback in some conversation around how to show up as a good leader. And I think just having that posture, though, makes you a good leader. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you care about people. That's why that's why you and I are working together, because you value people.
So this morning, Josh Munyon, Zach Saleh, and I all met up at Second Best Coffee to have a conversation about business mentorship and really to allow Josh to open up to Zach, and at the fundamental core of what Josh was hoping to do, he said to learn from somebody who was doing it right.
So it's like I don't know the right way to go about keeping someone accountable, because the only things I know what to do is what not to do, which is like I had a bad example growing up of what to do, of what not to do. So that's all that that's all that I'm aware of, but I don't know necessarily what a highly functional good example is.
I think for me it gets dangerous when I create absolutes. I think for me it's more of a how willing am I to check in with myself, and yes, something you learn as a parent is picking your battles. I'm constantly asking myself, like, does this bother me? Why does it bother me? What is it bringing up? Is this just a trigger for me? So what if I told you it's good to check in with someone when they make a mistake?
Yeah, makes sense.
It is good. But if that's your common denominator and the only way you go about it, then yeah, you're gonna cause pain. Mm-hmm. I wanna ask you this, and this is something for you to chew on.
Okay.
How can I check in with my people around their tasks? And how can I keep them accountable on a constant basis, but while sending them the direct message that I want to connect with them? So how can I do this from a place of affection and connection, not from a place of fear and performance? Leadership and accountability is just like anything. It's an art, not a science. It's something that it's a dance. It's a, hey, I didn't realize your feet were there until I stepped on them. And so you're gonna have to forgive yourself, and you're gonna have to forgive others. And you're gonna be learning, just like you are in anything else, by mistakes. You're a month into this or less, and you're already going, hey, how is this mirror? Like, what's coming up for me? What mistakes am I making? That's great, but I have a story in my head. I wonder if Dad was affectionate, not all the time, but if he was willing to be affectionate in maybe some of the hard things, that he was like, hey son, this is what you're doing. Now I see that you want this. I know who you are. And I love you, and I'm proud of you. I want to invite you to consider doing this. I want you to invite you to maybe raise your standard for yourself. Take care of your stuff. When you're done eating, put it in the dishwasher. I know it sounds silly, but I really appreciate you taking ownership of who you are as a man, and this is how you can show up. I have a story in my head that if there was connection surrounding that conversation and not demands, just would have been more palatable. Would have been like, shit, Dad really sees me.
Maybe this is a moment where I can put myself in there, but I did not expect it to go the way that it went today from my experience. I did not expect me to be sitting there being like, oh, this is my partner. I am literally watching a therapy session, if you will. How valuable that will be, I think is something that I want to share. This is a concept that I have to talk about now because I'm presently in the day of filming, but it's also something that I think any business owner who has a partner, like, they will gain value from hearing their partner's concerns from a open and safe space. And if you are sitting where I was sitting today, you could tell they weren't thinking about me, they were thinking about themselves. And I think that's really important, but the idea here being
Yeah, and if they share the value of growth, they're gonna latch onto it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they value that. We're motivated by our values. We just don't understand the why behind our values sometimes, which is the whole dialogue of our voids create our values. So if they share the value of growth, they're gonna jump on that wagon. If they don't, you're gonna have a conflict on your hands.
Okay.
And that's okay. You know why? Because they just did you a favor. A trigger, a painful event, started off as, I don't wanna give too much feedback, in your heart, ended up revealing that you no longer share the value, you do not share the value with someone else. So it's either going to cultivate your relationship and protect it, or it's going to reveal it and end it. And then good leadership is acting on it, going, okay, this isn't a good fit. I genuinely appreciate everything you've done. We're going to go a different direction. When we understand that the most creative, the most fulfilling environment we can create and establish is based on shared values. Not being the exact same, but being honored and seen and accepted. So like you might value people first above all things. I might not value that, right? I might be a little bit more action oriented than people. But if I respect and honor your values, I can go, when I relate to Josh, I need to make sure that he understands I'm putting him first before what's going on. Good leadership is freaking honesty and like being intentional about all your actions, how you treat people. It's mature love is what good leaders are. People will not remember what you said. They will not remember what you did. I gotta teach salespeople that. They don't care what you did or what you said. They will remember you by how you made them feel.
Zach has a term called the human element. And what he said is, unless you're working with AI or robots like this, you have to be versed in communicating with people and being a human being.
Yeah, so there's a concept that I kind of coined, the human element. No matter where you go in life, you're gonna find, unless you're working in AI, even then, you're gonna find people. So if someone doesn't freaking learn how to speak peopleese, that's a universal language. Any business establishment, you're gonna have to work with people, right?
So what do you recommend as far as leadership qualities for someone who's starting out? Because I'm willing to learn, but at the same time, it's like I just don't know. Everything's kind of like low resolution because I haven't explored the terrain yet, you know?
Yeah, so you're constantly gonna be asking questions and you're constantly gonna be looking for things that can go wrong. So when I say audit, I mean literally take the moment that we leave, like anytime you leave a client meeting going, okay, how do I make sure everything we just said is gonna take place? Like, so when Jocko talked about going out on a mission, they would literally spend copious amounts of time planning the mission and then understanding that all of those plans are gonna get thrown right out the window the first time a bullet goes right by your head. So in real life, you can have all these expectations clarified, but then you've got to understand that contingencies take place. That's all life is contingencies, meaning moving pieces. So you can only control what you can only control. So not to become an OCD control freak, but to look and say, where you're questioning everything. So one of the biggest points is, I want you to learn how to ask good questions. So as someone saying, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, ask them questions to clarify so that you understand every part of that, even though it might sound antagonistic or exhausting to them. As a leader, how can you hold them accountable for their actions if you don't understand what it is they're supposed to be doing and you're not crystal clear on when they're gonna get it done by? You can have all the great skill sets in the world. You can be the best vlogger, you can be the best editor, you can be the best social media expert, but if you don't freaking learn how to connect with human beings, how to be a decent human being, how to lead them into their greatness, how to give them ample feedback. Some of the best things you can ever do for someone is let them know how they let you down. I tell my 10-year-old especially that, because she, you know, I got a 10 and 8-year-old, she can hear it. I go, if you learn to connect with people, you'll make great money and you'll enjoy relationships. That's what leadership is all about, is connecting with that human and calling them to their greatness, not yours. As a father, I don't want my son to be just like me. I don't. I want him to be him. But I want to bring out his greatness. So So there's a dance there. And the same thing with leadership. You've got to be willing to put a mirror up to others and say, hey, here's how you're showing up. How can I, as a leader, serve you better? How can I bring out your greatness? What can I do to show up better for you? And they're gonna, you know what's crazy? Is they'll tell you what they need. They will. Might take a little bit of invitation, might take a little bit of vulnerability, a little bit of safety, but they'll tell you what they need. Hey, I need you to not text me so much. Hey, I need you to show up and do X, Y, and Z. Or hey, I need an email every week. Fantastic, I'm learning your language. And it's your job, if you want to see the outcome, to adapt to their needs. If not, get the hell out of the business. We call it a crap sandwich, shit sandwich. It's where you give them a compliment that's legitimate, not BS. Give them a legitimate compliment. I see you showing up in this. Can I give you some helpful feedback that I think would benefit both of our expectations? I noticed you did this, and I had the expectation that this was going to take place.
So, okay, that makes sense.
Entrepreneurship and leadership will reveal your pain faster than any other conduit in life. I'm talking faster than romantic relationships, faster than any friendship, because you're being pulled on in a way that just causes you to, you can't hide. You cannot hide. So, your void, which was your pain, instead of connection you got, you don't matter, the task matters. Instead of connection you got, I only tell you when you're doing something wrong, that's the only connection I have. Can you feel that?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so your inner genius goes, I want to make sure I never make someone feel that way again. So I'm going to err on the other side, which will actually end up recreating your pain. So instead, I want to help you keep your values in front of you as the motivation of people really matter to me, right? And what's the other value you spoke of?
Being self-aware. So caring about relationships more than, well, just caring about relationships and being like self-aware, which means having my finger constantly on the temperature of the situation and being fucking present instead
wow,
of
yeah, I mean, that's phenomenal. Yeah, I like the idea of keeping my finger on the temperature or on the pulse of a situation. So you can either let this void become a blind spot, or you can make it become a strength. The blind spot is going to be hiding and not wanting to be overbearing and just letting people screw things up. Letting it guide you as a compass is going to be, hey, I want to check in and check the pulse of this whole thing. How are you? How am I showing up as a leader? How can I help you become more successful? Great. What do you need from me? Hey, can I kind of challenge? This is going to be a little uncomfortable for me as a leader. I want to let you know, this is what I'm seeing. What do you think about this? And there's a vulnerability aspect that I think is really precious. I really do, you know? When you and I went to lunch last week and there were some moments where you drew some tears for me, and it was real, and you're like, how do people receive this when you typically show up? I remember thinking to myself, I don't ask that very often, I don't know. That's on them, you know what I mean? So I think as long as we're willing to show up fully and honestly, the rest will work itself out, you know?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, dude. Grateful.
Good shit, really good.
Got a lot of stuff. Can't wait. I feel like we can make a lot of stuff from this.
Where you're gonna win, Josh, as hell it's gonna help you gain a lot of momentum. Do you know what I mean?
All right, bye.
Bye.
Later.